You know that feeling when you visit a place and you just sense there's more to it? Like hidden layers, amazing stories just waiting.
Definitely. And that's exactly the kind of place we're exploring today,
We're doing a deep dive into Father Hennepin State Park up in Minnesota.
right on the shores of Milax Lake, which, as you probably know, is huge, Minnesota's second largest lake.
It is. And Father Hennepin, it's so much more than just a pretty spot, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's where history and, the present day really connect in some fascinating ways.
Yeah, so our mission really is to dig into what makes this park tick. We want to uncover the history, spotlight the highlights, maybe share a few surprises that make you want to go check it out yourself.
And we've gathered quite a bit to help us do that. We're looking at the really long human history there, the story of this cool old trading post, the wildlife, some interesting wildlife stories too, and of course all the ways you can actually experience the park.
Okay, so let's jump right into that history. It seems like the Milax Lake area wasn't just, randomly settled. There's archaeological evidence suggesting it was one of the first places people lived in the whole region.
That's right. It's a pretty significant starting point. And what's amazing is the continuous presence of different Native American groups over literally thousands of years.
Wow.
Yeah, you had the Cheyenne there when the first Europeans arrived in the 1600s. Then the Dakota, who called the lake Bide Wakan Mystic Lake.
Mystic Lake, I like that.
Me too. And then, around the mid-1700s, the Ojibwe arrived. Their name was Mississauga,
Which means
the lake that spreads all over. So even the names tell you how important this lake was to everyone who lived there.
it really paints a picture, doesn't it? The lake as the central hub for centuries, and then things shift. French explorers show up.
Followed by traders, French and British, and then eventually American settlements start growing. It really becomes a meeting point of different cultures.
And Minnesota becoming a state kind of kicked off a big logging boom, right?
Exactly. That changed the landscape quite a bit, especially with the white pine forests. And it led to more trading posts and stores popping up around Mille Lacs to support all that activity.
Like the Ayers Trading Post. That one sounds important.
It really is. Harry and Jeanette Ayers started it in 1918. They actually had a license from the U.S. Indian Service. Initially, it was more of a general store.
But they adapted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As tourism picked up around the lake, they shifted. Started selling American Indian arts and crafts, which became a big draw.
So more than just selling things.
Much more. They rented out cottages, they had a boat building and repair service, even hired local Ojibwe fishing guides. What's really key here is their relationship with the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe.
How so?
It seems like it was genuinely collaborative, really progressive for the time. They relied on band members for their business, but also actively advocated for them with the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
That sounds quite unusual, actually. A real partnership.
It does. And Harry Ayers, he developed this deep interest in the culture, building up a collection of over 1,000 Ojibwe artifacts by the 1950s.
1,000 pieces. Wow. What happened to that collection?
Well, recognizing its importance, the Ayers did something pretty remarkable in 1959.
Right.
They donated the Trading Post building, the land it was on, and that entire collection to the Minnesota Historical Society.
That's incredibly generous. And that led to the museum.
Exactly. The Mille Lacs Indian Museum and Trading Post opened the very next year, in 1960. And it wasn't just the Historical Society setting it up.
Ah, so the collaboration continued.
Absolutely. It was a real partnership between the Mille Lacs Band and the Historical Society right from the start. Even the design of the current museum, which opened in '96, reflects that.
How does the design do that?
Well, it's designed to really connect you to the lake, like the big east-facing wall with all the windows. It's meant to echo the shoreline, visually linking the museum's stories to Mille Lacs itself.
That's a really thoughtful touch. So the museum today is really focused on Ojibwe history and culture.
Very much so. It highlights their history, their art, their culture, and especially that enduring connection to the lake and their treaty rights like hunting and fishing. It's a vital place to understand their story.
And it sounds like the whole area is archaeologically rich, not just the museum site.
Oh, definitely. Just nearby, over in Mille Lacs State Park, you have the Pataka Point site. It's part of the Cathio National Historic Landmark District. We're talking evidence of human life going back 9,000 years.
9,000, that's staggering.
Isn't it? They found pottery fragments, all sorts of things that give us tiny glimpses into life long, long before Europeans arrived.
Yeah.
It just underscores how deep the human connection is to this land.
It really does, from ancient history right up to the park today.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the natural side of Father Hennepin. Obviously, being on Milax Lake is huge.
Undeniably. The lake defines the park in many ways. But there's some other interesting wildlife stuff going on, too. Have you heard the stories about albino deer? I have. I saw some mentions, I think maybe on Reddit, people saying they've seen them right around the park, even a mother and an albino fawn.
Yeah, those stories pop up. It
Yeah.
sounds almost legendary, doesn't it?
Sure.
Makes you wonder, though. Being bright white can't be great for camouflage.
Right. You'd think they'd be more vulnerable.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
But the fact that sightings seem somewhat consistent suggests maybe a small local population has managed to survive there. It's not something you can guarantee seeing, obviously, but it adds this little touch of, I don't know, magic.
It definitely does. Adds a bit of wonder to a hike. And speaking of seeing animals, the bird watching sounds incredible there. The list of species is just huge.
It really is a birdwatcher's hotspot. You've got everything from Canada geese and trumpeter swans, wood ducks, lots of different waterfowls, and grebes, herons, eagles, bald eagles for sure, maybe even golden eagles passing through.
Wow.
Owls, woodpeckers, falcons, and then just tons of different songbirds, warblers, vireos, thrushes. It's
Yeah.
like a living field guide.
Sounds amazing. And there's one bird that's particularly important there, the common tern, right?
Yes, absolutely. Hennepin Island, right out in the lake near the park, along with Spirit Island, they make up the Mille Lacs National Wildlife Refuge.
And I heard that's the smallest national wildlife refuge in the whole country.
It is. Isn't that wild? Tiny little islands, but incredibly important. They're one of the last really significant nesting spots for common terns left in Minnesota.
Why these specific islands? What makes them so crucial?
They're pretty barren, not much soil or vegetation, which is actually perfect for these terns. They nest in colonies on the ground, so they need open, relatively undisturbed areas.
Okay, that makes sense. But you said one of the last. Are they in trouble?
Yeah, sadly they are. Despite the name common tern, their numbers have dropped a lot in Minnesota, mostly due to losing habitat like this. They're listed as a threatened species in the state now, so this tiny refuge is critical.
Gosh. So protecting that nesting site is really vital. What's being done?
Well, folks from the Rice Lake National Wildlife Refuge and the Mille Lacs Band work together. They monitor the birds, try to improve the nesting conditions, but the biggest thing is minimizing disturbance.
Meaning people need to stay away.
Exactly. Especially during nesting season. There are marker buoys set up 200 feet out from the islands. It's really crucial that boaters and everyone respect that distance.
Okay, that's super important for anyone visiting to know. Keep your distance from the islands, but you can see Hennepin Island from the park itself, can't you?
You can. If you hike out to Poe Point in Father Hennepin State Park, you get a good view across the water towards the island. And there's even a sign there explaining about the terns and the conservation work.
That's great. So you can learn about it and see it responsibly. Perfect. Okay, so beyond the history and the wildlife, Father Hennepin sounds like a great place just to get outside and have fun, year-round, too.
Definitely year-round. The campground is open all year. It's got 103 sites for families, and over half of those have electric hookups.
Nice. Spread out.
Yeah, 2 main loops, Lakeview and Maple Grove. Plus, they have 6 group campsites if you've got a bigger crew.
And what are the sites like? Basic or?
Pretty well equipped, actually. You get your standard grill, fire ring, picnic table. There's drinking water, flush toilets, even hot showers, though there's a small fee for the showers. And a dump station, free Wi-Fi. They even sell firewood there.
Sounds pretty convenient for setting up camp. And then activity-wise, what's there to do?
Lots. In warmer weather, obviously boating, canoeing, kayaking.
Yeah.
Fishing is huge. Mille Lacs is famous for bass, like ranked one of the best bass lakes in the U.S.
Oh, wow. Good to know for anglers.
For sure. Plus swimming, water sports, just picnicking by the lake, wildlife viewing, hiking, biking. There's designated hunting in certain areas, too.
A bit of everything. What about winter? Does it shut down?
Not at all. It shifts gears. It becomes a great spot for quieter activities like hiking, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. Just be aware, they don't groom trails specifically for skiing or snowshoeing, so it's more of a natural, make-your-own-track kind of experience.
Okay, good tip for winter visitors. And I saw they sometimes have naturalist programs.
They do. This past summer, they had some cool stuff, like archery in the park that was new with certified instructors.
How fun!
Yeah, and they continued their nature table programs down by the beach picnic area. Covered all sorts of things. Fish of Mille Lacs, looking at animal bones and skulls, birds that fish for a living, Ojibwe beadwork, birds of prey. Really interesting topics.
Those sound like fantastic ways to connect more deeply with the park. Where would you find out about those if you were planning a trip?
Best bet is always the park's official website. check there for any upcoming programs because they really do add a lot to a visit.
Definitely. Wow. Okay, we've really covered a lot here, from that incredibly deep history tied to the lake, the Ayers Trading Post story.
The unique wildlife, like those possible albino deer sightings, and the really critical common tern nesting site. Right through to all the camping and the different ways to enjoy the park year-round. Father Hennepin State Park really does sound like a place that offers a ton for, curious people, lifelong learners.
It absolutely is. It hits that sweet spot if you're looking for both adventure and a bit of knowledge, a chance to connect with a place that's just packed with history and natural beauty.
So as you've been listening, maybe think about that intricate web we've kind of unraveled, the ancient history, the wildlife making its home there, the way people have connected with this place over centuries. What stories, what details might you find if you went exploring at Father Hennepin?
Yeah, this deep dive gives you a starting point, right? But there's always more. Maybe you'll dig deeper into the Milax band's history or learn more about protecting those terns or just make your own memories hiking those trails. The park's waiting.